It's your Starlink. You guys are both on Starlink.
Can't blame the Starlink for StreamYard.
And we are live with Tahverlee. Thanks for joining us. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here with both of you legends in this
Oh,
space. This is
no way.
exciting.
No way. We're just podcasters. We've just been talking about interesting things for a few years, It's that's
A
it.
few
Kind of,
years.
the problem is we can't really get too knowledgeable or deep on anything, right? So we love talking to
Mm,
people like you that have been enmeshed in specific things for a while
mm,
because we're just touching the surface of all these things, which is good in its own way, but it's also
mhm.
kind of weird, right?
Or maybe you're just opening doors, you're just
Yeah.
opening a multitude of doors for people to walk through. And I love that. I love even more that I just heard your Canadian accent. That was joyful.
I sound like I'm stoned, and Darren's always stoned. So it's we say don't change that speed to less than one for because then I'll sound really bad.
Yeah. Funny.
There is a Canadian accent, and I don't like it, but
I like it, being half Canadian and living in the US, I don't get to hear it very often, and sometimes it comes out for me. People here will hear it, and, it's usually with things like about or the fact
true.
that I just pronounce things very clearly.
Right.
It doesn't I don't sound American. Maybe I do now, you can tell me by the end of our hour together.
Do you say a still? Does that
No,
no, it
I
doesn't? Mm.
not really. I have a cousin that just drove down to visit me from Canada, and by the time he left, I could feel myself talking Canadian a little more. But not, I don't, A doesn't come up very often anymore. So
So
feel
what?
free, give me the joy of hearing it while we're here.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it'll come out automatically. I can't stop it. So,
I
a
think it's different from the east to the west.
yeah, it
Yeah.
might be.
Hmm.
So what we love this is one of my favorite topics. I do love kind of like earth wisdom, witchcraft, sacred magic and all that. I love talking to people about it because it's such we're in such an interesting time too where there seems to be like a massive interest in the metaphysical and the new age, but there's also like a weird pushback that's kind of happening as well. So how long let's talk a little bit about you and your kind of origin story or how long, what got you into this?
Yeah, for sure. One thing that I think for me is a little unique is that I was, raised in a small mountain town by parents that were hippies, at least for the first few years of my life. And I wasn't really exposed to a lot of, traditional religion. I also was not exposed to anything sort of pagan related either. I was not exposed to any belief system really. And so in the course of my life, I got to choose little bits to dive into. And it's funny. I love that I have these memories of being like, probably under 10 and walking in my little town from my little house up to a church by myself in my Wrangler jeans and my, cowboy boots. And I'd walk up into a church and I just go sit in the back pew because there was something that I could feel there without having any, attachment to what really they were saying, to be honest. And, they kept trying to shoo me down into Sunday school. And I'm like, oh, no, 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 I like it here. And I think that that curiosity in me to explore what else is out there has always been with me. And I think we're all born with that interest in what else there is. In fact, I think we're all born with the feeling that there's more than the material world, right? We see it in our imagination and how we used to play. And then for me, if you fast forward, life happens, we get busy. And like you, Graham, I'm a collegiate athlete. I spent a lot of years playing competitive sports, both in the US and in Canada. And, after kind of that settled, I went through a lot of changes in my life. Part of it is injuries to my body and changing of relationships that really just kind of stripped me bare of how I had identified myself up until that point. And I'm telling you this through the lens of my wisdom now. Right at the time, I would not have been able to verbalize that that's what was happening. And when I found myself, stripped bare, facing, the second part of whatever my life was going to look like in whatever capacity I wanted it to be, I just was more open and I started to experience the unseen worlds again. Like I can remember experiencing when I was young, when I would sit at the edge of a river and dangle my feet into the flowing water, or when I would, walk up a mountain by myself and hear the sound that would whisper amongst the trees. That came back when I was, you know, stripped down from everything I thought that was going to bring me happiness. And I think we all go through those phases of, the contemplations of, what are we here for? Like, what's this? Is this all there is? Is this it? And that, that question, probably 20 years ago now, it stayed with me for long enough to where I kept opening my field to experience new things. And the moment I found, I'll say spirituality, but I'm saying it lightly in the sense that I didn't have an organized structure, but the moment I started to awaken deeper and deeper, the right teachers started to appear. And that's what happened for me, teacher after teacher. And then I found mystery schools, which I didn't even know what a mystery school was. And then I started, feeling into this word witch, and I'm like, oh, there's some sort of like deep remembering happening in my body. And then I kept learning and I kept practicing, and I tried on a whole bunch of different things, went to a whole bunch of different mystery schools. And in the course of that time, I was still keeping my life pretty segregated. I hadn't come out of the broom closet yet, and there was not a lot of people that I had in my life up until that point where I could have these deep, like, esoteric conversations, let alone, conversations about spell work. So I had these like fractured parts of me, and I was living with all these fractured parts of me until one day it's like the clothes I was wearing at different times just became too tight. And even during those times, I would keep my tattoos hidden in my professional world. I had all these facets, and then a day came to where I just didn't want to do that anymore. I didn't want to do that anymore. And I started consciously, like intentionally bridging my worlds. And I started talking about witchcraft in my, powerlifting communities. And I started talking about, the ways that I was of service to the world, or how I was shamanic drumming on the weekends in my professional communities. And it all just formed into who I am today. And I still feel like I'm evolving. I'm still finding out, what cloak am I wearing today? Today it just happens to be a red shirt. My tattoos are out, but I think that evolution is something that, I'm sure a lot of your listeners and a lot of people can understand, that no matter what the end result is of what you feel you're embracing today, it's the result of constantly being stripped bare and remembering again.
Yeah, I totally get that, because there was a part where I really had to keep all my little circles segregated in an unhealthy way, not a healthy way. Like, yours sounded much more healthy than mine, but
it wasn't always.
no, I wasn't. But I mean, then I got to the point where I was like, okay, like, I'm just going to be me and unapologetically me, and it doesn't matter what I'm doing, whether I'm podcasting or being wherever I am in life. I'm the same guy in a way. But how long through was that for you when you made that shift? Like halfway through, or just more recently?
I mean, I've been practicing as an out of the closet witch for almost 10 years. And, that path, and I talk about it a lot, the decision to come to be more public in my craft, which I'm sure you've all seen on my social media, is not the path that I would actually even recommend for a lot of people, unless you're going to be, you feel like you need to be out. I think embracing the core of what calls you on your spiritual path doesn't mean you have to do it public. I mean, your inner circles are just as important as public. And I try to differentiate that, because I'm a little different, because I do it so publicly that, I always want to let people know, you don't have to go on Instagram and post your rituals like I do. You don't have to do that. But it is an interesting thing to think about, how and where do we allow ourselves to be seen?
What are some of the misinterpretations, or what's the word I'm really looking for? Misunderstandings about witches and witchcraft?
That's a good question. I'll tell you the most commonly asked questions I get. Here they are, and they're funny. Some of them are funny. I get asked a lot if I have a broom. And I mean, people say it with a joke, but like with a smile, but I think that they're genuinely curious. And my answer is I have like 15. And then I usually like pause the sentence there to give, people the chance to explore, like, okay, do I have another question? The second most common question that I get is, am I a good witch or a bad witch? And that is really the crux. And I get asked that in 100 different ways, but really people want to know, because their perception of witchcraft is, often the left-hand path, or what you see on Hollywood, right? Like black magic or dark magic. And I don't like to call it black magic, because really that is a like a racist way of saying dark magic. So I don't say black magic, but what's known as the left-hand path. People think that that's witchcraft, but there's so many gray areas in between from good versus evil. And my response to that question on if I'm a good witch or a bad witch is it depends on how you define good versus bad. And I like having conversations with people when they ask me that question, because the majority of people that ask me that question don't identify on the spiritual path. So they're seekers, or they're just people that I've met and have created a relationship with, and all of a sudden they either find me on social media or they ask me what I do, and somehow it comes out. And they're usually very deep conversations that I enjoy having.
Well, I don't know what to say about that. I kind of want to push back a little bit on the black thing, because things have been black and white for a long time, and it's not had to do with race until very recently. So it kind of
That's
bugs
true.
me. That kind of,
Yeah.
They
it's
were
like,
probably calling it black magic before they even knew there was black people.
well,
Yeah.
it's been called black magic for a long time, but and it's got to do with the darkness. So I do appreciate it being called dark, because it's from the darkness. You know, it's not from the color black, it's from the darkness, I think, right?
It's more ominous anyway, I think. Dark makes it more dark is a
Yeah,
is
like
more,
the shadow side. And I totally hear you and understand and agree. Also want to be sensitive to today.
Yeah.
I agree with you entirely. I mean, it doesn't, we could just call it baneful magic, right?
Yes, that's a good
Baneful
one. Yeah.
versus good, what people perceive as good magic.
But
what's
I
the
think that's
difference?
I think that's an important part, because if you ask like somebody like Blavatsky or some of the theosophists, their definition of black magic or dark baneful magic is very, very, like, we would think, oh my God, like that's almost anything falls under that category. So
Well, if
that's why
you
you have
think,
to try and define it, because
mhm.
it can be used. People can throw it in whatever category they want.
Yeah, it's this idea of if you're doing something that violates somebody else's free will seems to be a common topic in today's conversation, in today's spiritual communities, like doing things that violate free will. But the truth is that we're always doing things that violate people's free will all the time. Even just when we're driving down the road and we swear at somebody, and we hope something happens because somebody annoyed you. I mean, you're violating their free will by saying it in a negative way, like an unintended curse. So I don't really I don't really practice that. The idea that we have to be concerned about violating free will. I think everybody's individual values on what types of spells or rituals they do is very individual. It's very unique.
Yeah, totally. But I mean, there is a point when you try and do harm, I guess, is part of. I think one of the more modern definitions would be like when you're trying to harm somebody, using magic to harm others,
Yeah.
not even just
Mhm.
interfering with free will, but like actual harm. So I know that's subjective too, but
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, hey, it's a valid thing in my world. It's real. The question and conversation about doing harm is a very prevalent conversation. I'll say one thing that we see people doing harm to others as humans, no matter who they are, all the time, every day. We just have to turn on the news for 5 minutes and see it. So the idea that we think that spiritual practices or any type of witchcraft practices would be absent from the human desires that we already know exist is false. So yes, and doing harm is, you say it's subjective. I think that it follows into that idea of what are your values? What are you willing to do to protect yourself or the people that you love when it comes to doing harm? And we can carry that conversation down the human rabbit hole too. And that would be a big question, right? Like, what are you willing to do to protect the people you love? It's no different asking that question and doing spell work.
yeah, that's a good point. And I guess what I meant was it shouldn't be so subjective, but I guess that like somebody being offended is subjective. So harming somebody, like I might say something to you, or you might call me a name, and like I might be offended or not, but that's not necessarily doing harm, I guess. So I was probably
Yeah.
wrong in saying that, because harm is probably a little bit more objective, but lately we're treating it as a subjective thing because of feelings and all this stuff. So but it's also interesting because we come from a place where there was a real persecution of the witches and witchcraft from Christianity. So there's an increase, like the way I see it right now. I'd love to get your take on it. Is like like materialism has lost the battle. Like people are resonating with all kinds of new age and witchcraft, and we have an increase in Christianity growing as well, and then we have an increase in the new age, but we also have this weird pushback against the new age because there's a bunch of people around our circles that are calling it this new world religion, and which I don't necessarily agree with. I try to push back a little bit, but I see where they're coming from. So where's my question in there?
You lost it.
Yeah, I lost it in that whole rant.
That was a lot of good info, though. That was great.
But I mean, it is because I feel like okay, it comes back to the persecutions. Like, like I guess where do you see it after the last couple of years, 10 years, 15 years of this growth of the metaphysical sort of reality, but also this increase in Christianity? Like, do you see like that push happening right now?
Yes, and maybe a third area too, and you'll know what I'm talking about, is the wanting to embrace, God consciousness or universal consciousness, and you might call it God, but something that's bigger than just who we are here and today. And that might come through in an increase in traditional religion, but I actually think the increase is in the understanding or the feeling that there is like one universal source. I think that has definitely increased. And I think it's because people are searching for the meaning of it all. We've been through so much change, right, as a planet in the last 5 years. We've been through so much change. And the hamster wheel, the idea of the hamster wheel, people want off the hamster wheel. And the moment you can feel like literally feel in your body that there's something more to this than, going to work and waking up and doing the same thing over and over, that you have a purpose, that you incarnated here for a reason, and that you're going to experience certain things for certain ways, and your soul's going to evolve, and then you're probably going to do this again in another lifetime, or that you are an infinite being, that changes the whole purpose in life. And I think that that's what people are searching for, even if there are different avenues to get there.
I think that's what's happening with the collapse of materialism and the new atheists came in trying to sort of hold their materialistic worldview. I mean, even though it's still kind of running the paradigm in a way, but I think that that's what people need, is that search for meaning. Shelley in the chats just says, I think her view of black magic would be lower vibrational magic. I don't know if that's
it can be, for sure, lower. I mean, we can go down that rabbit hole of demons and demon work and shadow work in the underworld.
Well, I wanted to get there eventually, but Darren, what were you gonna say?
Well, I'm not convinced that the materialism paradigm is collapsing, and maybe it might just be rejiggering a little bit, because I mean, we can't just walk away from materialism completely, because we do still live to a certain extent in a material world. I think it's just got to rejigger. We're kind of having this conversation yesterday off air about there's this younger generation that just, being on the hamster wheel is one thing, but I think that there's, it's like, well, if you don't work, what are you going to do? Because I think what you find at the end of the day is you're going to work. It's just a matter of finding what you're going to work at. You got to find that sort of passion and work towards it, because there's the other side of it where, when you quit working, you die. They say that retirement is like the most dangerous thing for people. It's like once you, and even if it's a job you hate, you sort of find, I guess, some shitty purpose in it. But I think that I see materialism sort of just breaking up into a less centralized sort of thing that's going to go through a weird period, and will hopefully come out the other side with, I don't know, but there's definitely this getting off the hamster wheel or getting out of the hustle is coming, even from people who are doing well. Like I know people who are doing well by sort of all standards, but they're just sort of sick of work. They're even in a job that they don't mind, and they're like doing well at it, and they're just like, I'm sort of sick of it. And I don't know, because I don't work anymore, but I work more than anybody I fucking know. I mean, if you ask my wife, she'd be like, fuck that, this guy don't work. That's all he fucking does. And, from morning until dark every night, and I got to drag him out of the office. But it doesn't feel like work to me. It sort of feels like play. And I don't know what the point of that is, but I I don't think materialism is gone. I think it's just sort of reshaking on what a sovereign person's role in that is going to be, because we got to keep moving materials around to a certain extent. Or do you think that is something different? Is there a different definition for that than materialism? Maybe that's a question for Graham.
Yeah, I think maybe Graham can define how he meant by materialism. I assumed what he meant by that, but that's a good question.
Well, Darren seems to go there when I say materialism. He seems to go to that. I mean more of like the physical, I'm trying to, now I can't, I'm gapping on the word. There's another word besides materialism that's a little more scientific. I just mean that we're stuck in this sort of Newtonian physics paradigm where we don't accept there's any metaphysical reality. That's kind of what I mean by materialism. And the atheist kind of like materialist, that sort of thing is more of like an atheist type paradigm where they think that there's no other realm of spirit. There's nothing else out there besides our physical reality. That's kind of what I mean. And that's collapsing. Like that just can't hold weight any longer.
So animism maybe is waking up more as you're as opposed to animism, materialism versus animism.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But I understand what Darren's saying too, because you did mention about people's jobs and all that. We're in an interesting spot because like Darren said, people are going to work. You got to do something productive, right? You got to do something. So what are you going to put your time and your energy? What's going to give you that productive, satisfied feeling? You got to be doing something. So either
the fact that Call of Duty isn't going to do it, it's just not.
Maybe for a bit,
or maybe like binge watching Netflix. It's not going to do it. It's just, and I think there was a time when I wanted to not work, and that's what was going through my head. I want to not work so I can party and watch TV and play video games and do all these things I'm trying to cram into the weekend. And thank fucking God I had to keep working through that time, because if I didn't, I probably would have killed myself, or with drugs or alcohol, or just I would have been a wasted fucking life back then. So it's like, in some ways I didn't get the reward to not work until I was willing to do a shitload of work that was unpaid as well. I had to be willing to do a bunch of unpaid work for the world before I noticed any sort of return on it.
And is that part of your path as a writer, Darren? Is that part of it for you?
Oh, I don't know.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, and I can relate to that because not just with the first book I published, but with this current publishing deal that I have now, there's so much endless amounts of work that goes into a book that isn't actual paid time, right? It's and maybe we look at work differently as, sometimes we need work to pay our bills because the current energy exchange of our planet is still money. We still need access to money.
And the thing with that is if you didn't have that, you would have to work anyway. Because if you didn't have the money, then it's okay. Well, you got to get out in that field today then and make sure there's no weeds in the vegetable patch, or make sure you're going hunting, or make sure. Right. So there's some sort of exchange going on,
So that's still here that you're talking about. Yeah, it definitely. I think that exchange still happens. But it's all about the lens at which you look at it through, right? I mean, some of the most powerful witches that I know have corporate jobs or day jobs that they enjoy because it is an easy way for them to bring in revenue to fund the lifestyle that they have. And they don't find it, they're not finding it in hardship to do an exchange of service or time, and they find joy in it. Even if it's a grind some days, it's the lens at which they look at it. And there's one woman that I know, she talks about this pretty publicly, is that she has a corporate job, and it's not necessarily just her purpose, but the teams that she manages and the humans she interacts with, she brings her magic into her workplace every day without about magic, and she likes the people. So the work itself is not necessarily what's fulfilling, but and it wasn't always that way, right? She had to do a lot of work on herself to find the joy in the ways that she makes money. And so that's what I mean by it's also the lens at which you're looking at that stage of your life and what are you doing for that exchange.
I love that. Yes, I totally love that. Yeah, it kind of comes back also to like some of the Buddhist stuff where when when you're sweeping the floor, just be sweeping the
Just
floor.
be sweeping the floor. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's power in that. There's so much power in just being present with what it is that you're doing and finding the joy there. Because
Exactly.
another interesting thing I find, as a teacher of these topics that we talk about, sometimes it's not just powerful to chase the stars. People want those high spiritual big hits and ceremonial magic, and we do that. I do that lots, and I love it. But it's not more powerful than putting both feet on the ground where you're at, like right there and finding joy in that moment. It's not more powerful than that. The question is, can you be present with just that moment at a time? I mean, that's really the work. And I know that's also a big topic, but
I like it. That's a really good way to say that. I want to read something from Shelley as well. She says, "I'm so thankful for this episode today. I've been so frustrated with the demonization of witches and non-Christian mysticism in alternative media lately." That's what I'm talking about, right? That's
Mm.
exactly. People fear things they don't understand. So yeah, there's been
The
like
woke
this.
right.
What?
The woke right.
Yeah.
I don't want to get political about it, but yeah, because we're in this like conspiracy community kind of, because all these things intersect and a lot of them have been suppressed by the mainstream. And now we have this like pushback to Christianity. But also I'm thinking, like, is this like a modern sort of witch trial thing? Like, why are you so upset at New Age? Like, they're getting upset at New Age again, almost as if like Madame Blavatsky was right back in the 1800s, saying like, don't do yoga, don't do any of these things because you need to be initiated first. Well, so, and I struggle with it because I do think you should have some training in some of the stuff. That's kind of what I
Agreed.
wanted to get into with you. And on if you have all these, like I was listening to a podcast the other day and they were talking about how it was in terms of like witchcraft too. And she was saying that if you don't really know what you're doing and you're messy, your spells are messy anyways, just go ahead and do it. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Well, hang on a sec. Doesn't it depend on what kind of magic and what kind of spells you're working on? I mean, you don't want to be messing up some important sort of summoning spells or something like that. So I'm of two minds because I kind of understand what some of the deeper Christian thinkers would say about the risk of this stuff, because we've talked about enough of this stuff on the show where when you're summoning, like I kind of like partition off whatever I play around with summoning and like protection, right? Like I don't want to go out there and ask for any kind of contact with anything after seeing enough from trying to make contact with UFOs and all that kind of stuff. Like I don't want to do that. So I wanted to ask you about like safety in your practice and like and the shadow work and the demons and all that. Like don't we have to be careful with all that stuff? And don't we have to be careful that people are trained when they go about this? And I know you're a teacher, so you're probably this is what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what
Anyways,
about like having
as far as the bigger picture goes too.
and what about having like a clean fucking mindset? Like how much self work should go in before you start playing with other things?
I'm writing down these questions because they're all really good.
Yeah, and that's kind of what the mystery schools, like when I started learning about the mystery schools and these secret societies, they wanted you to do all that work on yourself. You had to go in like getting your shit together. You couldn't just go in like all like with all these issues going on, because it's going to mess you up. So that was
Let's talk about that part first, the clean mindset. So the most powerful course that I teach in mystery school, which is Moon Temple Mystery School, is the High Priest and the High Priestess class. And anybody that asks me like what they should join or what they should sign up for, it's that, because that is the deep dive transformational 13 steps. Like here's all the elemental magic. We do deep shadow work. To me, any deep transformational magic or spell work that you want to do, it can never overcome your beliefs. Like your beliefs are more powerful than the spells you're casting. And so the path that I teach is the whole package, because having a clean mindset and working on yourself, to me, is part of learning how to cast powerful spells and rituals. I mean, you are the foundational piece. So yes, Darren, I'm a big supporter of that, and my books are all very, very much this bridge between, yes, magic is powerful, yes, these spells and rituals work, but they don't work more than you're going to work on yourself. They don't. And that's a totally separate, conversation, Graham, than what we were talking about in terms of safety. So with great power comes great responsibility, right? Once you have cleared your energy field and you know how to manipulate energy, both your own and the energy around you, or energy of the world. I mean, spell work is manipulating energy and outcomes. When you know how to do that, and you can, whether you're summoning, higher conscious levels of beings or lower underworld, denser beings, whoever you're calling in for support, if you have leaks in your own field, right? It's you. If you have leaks in your own field, there is the possibility, yes, that things could go awry. But it's not just about like what words you use to summon them. I mean, I'll say in 98% of the case it's not, because most people don't have enough knowledge or access to knowledge to be able to call in or work with really powerful entities that could take you over, right? It's very, very rare, unless you're playing in that field. Right? If you're playing in that field, that's a different story. So safety and protection, yes, a little bit. The best safety you can do before any spells or rituals is just to ground your own energy and make sure you're clear. Like if you're carrying any baggage from the day, or you're carrying any baggage and stress as a whole in your life, you shouldn't be casting big, powerful spells, because you're bringing that baggage into the spell with you. But of course, over time, we can all learn how to ground and how to meditate, or whatever it is that you do, whatever rituals you do to clear energy. You can learn to do that quickly. So it's possible to move between being a human that carries stress and change, and move into spell work, fast. But that's, you know, the question about safety and protection is such an interesting one. I get asked this question all the time, and 90% of the time that I get asked about protection, it's people need protection from themselves and their own relationships and life choices more than they need protection from spirits. uh, People that don't know how to set boundaries want to do protection magic right away. And I'm like, well,
Yeah.
let's do human stuff first, and then we'll deal with protection magic. But most of the time, the human work and how we navigate our life clears up the need for that. In again, unless you're playing in that field. Now, I have removed entities from humans. I've been a part of ceremonies that remove entities from humans, exorcisms. Like I've been a part of all of those things. And in most of those cases, those entities that have gone into a human body comes from that own human's trauma, that becomes this own little black cloud that lives inside of them, that either is an opening for something to enter them, or that little black cloud of trauma inside of them becomes sentient, and it becomes a thing that you're literally just pulling trauma out of somebody, not another spiritual being. And this comes from the field. Like this is real experience from the field. So, and that's why I say, like, the idea that we need, a lot of safety and protection before we summon or before we do big work. Well, sometimes, but we more need to do work on ourselves and handle our own shit than we need to worry about protecting ourselves from, deep, dark energies.
I like that. Okay.
Can I get fucked up by a witch if I'm just here minding my own business? Is there
Yes.
like any ingrown protection I have, or how do I know if witches are fucking with me?
And it doesn't even have to be a witch. It can be anybody that knows how to manipulate energy, right? There's
I'm
lots
sure
of
there's a few of them.
power. The most powerful thing you can do is make sure you're doing daily energy hygiene, which is through meditation or grounding practices, and scan your body. Like, how do you feel in your body? Are you carrying a sore back right now? In fact, Darren, you do have some, like, I'm just going to read you a little bit. I'm going to take this as consent to read you a little bit, but kind of in the back of your neck, lower neck, upper back, you have a little spot there. Do you have an ache that sits in that upper part of your back? Is that where you carry stress?
I don't know. I have a bad shoulder.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
Could be.
I mean, the parts of our body where we carry stress are the parts that energy can come into, right? If you were to see, let's just visualize yourself as if we could put you in a ball of color that was a color of your choosing, that you can visualize yourself inside of, and you can scan your body inside of that, and you can seal up this little energetic bubble. Once you start doing something like that, like grounding meditation, and then putting yourself in a bubble, you're going to know where that bubble is not sealed based upon what doesn't feel good in your body. So that's why I've gone to that place in your body. So my suggestion for you would be to do a meditation and a grounding twice a day. This would be something anyone can do for 21 days. By the way, this is a foundational practice I teach. 21 days, you morning and night, you do a meditation, breath work, or grounding, and then you close your eyes. And for about, usually really only takes about 5 minutes of visualization, picture yourself inside, a clear or like an iridescent type bubble. Picture yourself inside that bubble. It could be something like a clamshell that closes over you, or just a circular, like a bubble that you would blow from a wand. Picture yourself inside of that. And for 5 minutes, you just hold that. You see yourself inside this completely encompassed bubble. So breath work and meditation, visualization for 5 minutes, hold yourself in the bubble. And before you finish, you say out loud, this is my protection, this is my protection, this is my protection. And you don't stop until you can see it. Morning and night, same exercise for 21 days. And on the 22nd day, you wake up and just close your eyes without any rituals or meditation and just can you see yourself sitting at the center of this bubble? And if you can, your energy is in a protected state. Every day you should check that, just as a human, not as even as a witch. You should check that. And what you might find is if your shoulder's aching, you might see a little ripple in the bubble behind you in that spot where that bubble of protection could be. For a lot of us, for a lot of women specifically, that bubble falters kind of in the area in front and behind our throats. Right. And then in the front and behind of our reproductive organs where women carry trauma. For men, it's going to be more like neck, shoulders, usually like a surrounding circle, almost it's like a Saturn ring in that area. You can see kind of holes come through that. That's the best energy protection that you can do.
So just weed won't do it?
Well, I think weed might lower your protection bubble a little, if I'm honest.
I mean, yeah, maybe. I try not to complain because I got a pretty good life going on over here.
He's got a pretty solid ego too. I don't know if like he might just be like resilient.
I don't know about an
that
ego.
kind of stuff, like in a good way.
Or maybe he just has it's funny that you say that, because what he might,
I'm an Indian too, so like maybe some of that. I have like dream catchers all around this bitch.
Yeah, things might just bounce off of you. Like that's what I'm seeing it as. Things might Graham's laughing. Things might
won't let anything get to him. So it's just,
yeah, it could be. But I hope
the dream catchers. I mean, I have a dream catcher in every room of the house, all the bedrooms, all the cars, all the
I was gonna say the vehicles too. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I mean, but also, what could you have done in this lifetime that would make witches want to send baneful magic your way?
Well, I mean, I'm on the podcast talking shit all the time. I don't have much of a filter. I'm divorced, so there's a few and there's witches listening. So
yeah. Well, I one thing that I always kind of laugh about too is remember that to do a really good baneful magic working takes a lot of energy. So the practitioner doing it has to really want something to be done, because a one-time
I'm probably down to like one or two.
Okay. it takes a lot of energy and output, not just to do a one-time shot.
Do you have to like know the person too, or can you just like zap a total stranger, or do you have to have some sort of inkling of them?
I can zap a total stranger.
Oh, really? So it could just be disgruntled listeners.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This is why we can ever go on Joe Rogan.
Or bring me with you. There you go. I'll be your backup. Now I do the ritual that I shared with you, and in fact, honestly, you could do it together as part of this podcast too, to put a layer of protection around the content that you share, and it is a powerful practice for anybody to do, and it is highly unpenetratable when you do it regularly. It is, it's a shield.
What about some of the older sort of methods? Like maybe that's for different stuff, but you hear about people putting like salt on the windows. My wife has these little rocks. They're kind of like white and long. I forget. I don't know what they're called, but she's
selenite.
Got that's in every window of the house, and that
for sure. Yeah, I mean, house clearing. One of the things that I teach is house clearing with sacred smoke, and then sealing all the entrances to your home. You can use salt. You can use stones. I mean, that's a physical space. That's different than your energy, right? So physical space is protecting your physical space would be a different.
If I never leave the physical space?
Yeah, well, you are the physical space then. Okay. Yes, yeah, all the stones, all the tools work to protect your space. There's also a lot of practices that I teach about how to ward your home, how to put a spiritual being, like giving a being a job, or a land spirit that already resides on the lands that you live on, because we're all walking on top of lands that people have lived on for thousands of years, and so their spirits are still around. You can call upon and work with land spirits and place them as guardians of your space, like give them a job. And that's a that takes a little bit more effort and time, because if you're going to invoke a spirit and give them a job, they require offerings in return and respect, and they'll work hard for you. So there's lots of reasons why people want to physically protect their space, especially if you live in a certain area where that's necessary. But regular cleansing and sealing of entrances of your home, or even just regular sealing of your property line, is super powerful.
Yeah, I think we had Dave Zilla on not too long ago. We were talking about his AI grimoire, a book of shadows for contemporary chaos, and he talked about just make friends with your house spirit. Like
Oh
his
yeah.
like, oh yeah, just make friends with your house spirit. Like
Oh,
just
for
What about
sure.
cats? Like these, people have had these. I mean, the Egyptians seem to be really into cats, and there's something weird about pets that we've got this relationship with them. I mean, sure, it could just be a simple thing like getting rid of mice or getting rid of that, but it seems to transcend that in
Mhm.
some ways. And pets seem to act weird sometimes and see stuff that we don't see. So is there any connection to that? I mean, I even think I remember some, like, back in the day, there's some like connection between witches and cats.
Mhm. I
Is
mean,
that
there's connection between
I
witches and
just
all
remember,
all
like,
animals,
yeah,
all
I
things
always
that
got a
are
feeling
alive.
the
Yeah.
witch always had a cat.
Yeah. A lot of mythology talks about that, but witches connect with everything that's alive, right? And that's everything. So yeah, sometimes, I mean, animals are really powerful protectors. Animals are healers. There's a lot of animal shamans that work specifically to teach people how to work with their own pet, or to communicate with pets that you've had that have passed over, that are not in a physical form anymore. They're just as powerful too. Current pets and previous pets, pet spirits they're definitely powerful.
Which
huh.
one's better? Is one's better than the other? Dog or cat? Which one?
No, I can't.
The audience.
I can't say that. I can say that. No, I can't say that. I can say that there are so many other pets that are not dogs and cats.
True. I have horses. They seem kind of special too.
See, I knew you were going to say that. Yeah. Your horses are probably your protectors.
Really? That's
Mhm.
good. That's good, because it really feels like I'm just fucking waiting on them hand and foot most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah, they are probably your protectors. That would be my guess.
This kind of gets into, you mentioned in one of your videos recently about connecting with body and nature.
Mhm.
Seems like two underappreciated aspects of it, which I guess is what you're saying, right? Connecting to life and nature,
Mhm.
grounding, I guess, in nature and your body. Like that, as a man, I have a hard time feeling stuff in the body in some ways, like you mentioned, feeling it. I mean, I feel pain, physical pain, but feeling like spiritual sensations and stuff, it's very tough.
Mm. It's an important facet when you're looking to develop your psychic or spiritual gifts, for sure, because they're still coming through your human body. Most of the time when people feel like they get blocked spiritually, or that they don't have any type of psychic gifts, or they don't have any inner knowing, it's that they don't know how to connect with the parts of their body that the information is coming through, right? Our sensory field and connection to, whether it's a tree, or putting your feet in the grass, or a human that has died that you're related to, like an ancestor, all those sensations come in your body. It's not outside of you, even if it originates outside of you. So that means it's super important to be able to feel in your body. And if you find, for example, Graham, it's really hard to, like, you don't feel intuition in your belly, that might not be your thing. You might have an auditory sense, right, that could hear forgotten songs of your ancestors, or whispers from the wind that bring you messages, or maybe it's through your sense of smell, or maybe it's just this knowing that comes into your thoughts instead of in your belly. So, but it's all still part of the body. So it depends on what part of the bodies you feel like you can't connect to. I do think that for most people, there is one or two areas that is kind of more natural, even though everything can be developed. Really, it's like it's a muscle, right?
Yeah.
Our
Is there any benefit to the fact that I'm still walking around on the same ground that my people have been walking around with for the last
yes.
10,000 years? Like almost everybody in the world is transplanted, and I'm not saying I'm more Canadian Graham, but Graham's history, if you go back a couple hundred years, it's going to take you over a sea to another land where he might have some natural protection from
Mhm.
ancestors doing this, that, and the other thing. But I just wonder if there's something different about being in the same place for as your ancestors for thousands of years.
Oh, well,
Well,
for
I mean,
you,
like the
yes.
English people that are still in England have been doing the same thing, right?
Mhm.
They've been there
Yeah.
for a couple thousand years now, doing ceremonies and druid shit and making stone circles. Like that's gotta carry something. Like when I'm out hunting, I'll come across all these medicine wheels all the time. You can tell when you get to because the farmers and the ranchers, they always stack the rocks in the corner. And you can tell the medicine wheels, even the small ones, because they're always at the top of the tallest hill in the area. So you'll find even a little one that you don't know, but some Indians made that shit. Who knows when? And no one's ever bothered to just move them rocks. Probably no one ever will. But there's something about that, that you're still walking over these things. There's like a feeling that comes over you when you're out there. That's like, huh, so these motherfuckers were out here doing the exact same thing I'm doing. Who knows?
Yes. Yes. And when you say that you feel that, when you experience it, you're feeling it inside your body. Like it's not, it's still a sensation, an emotion or a sense or something that you feel in your body. And so connecting to your body is really important, because a lot of this knowledge that we seek, can't be found in this. And it can only be found, and I'm holding up my cell phone. It can only be found inside of our body. And the most powerful way to spend more time with your body, of course, is in nature, but is to put all electronics away. So you're forcing yourself to hear what's out there, not what's coming through your earbud. I mean, I find it hilarious that kids today say walking without earbuds in your phone is called walking naked. I'm like, what?
I love it. I
What?
did that the other
Hey,
day. The other day, I took my earbuds out just to listen to the birds for a bit. It was
yeah,
weird. Yeah, I was like, oh my
yeah.
God, I'm gonna try just
Walk
shutting these
naked.
off and walking naked. I love
I
it.
never wear headphones.
Yeah.
Yeah, except when I'm doing the show. I've even stopped at this point. I've very rarely, even the last little while when I'm in my truck. You know what? I went on that trip with Nicky the Dude, and he doesn't play music the whole time. We're just cruising. And I just
Mhm.
sort of slipped into that pattern. So now when I'm driving, half the time I'm just fucking cruising, not listening
Is
to
it
anything
great?
ever
Yeah.
unless I'm in my office or in my bedroom.
So amazingly, Darren, you are tuning out the outside world, and you are probably tuning into the inside world a lot more. It could be your thoughts, could be your brain, could be your body, could be your feelings. When we turn off external outside world, our inside comes out. Now, sometimes it can be like the things that we think about over and over again. Sometimes we loop, so it's not always healthy. I encourage you to keep doing it because it's amazing. Um,
Well,
but
honestly, it's the hunting and the fishing is what it comes down to.
yeah,
Those are the two things I do with a lot of my time, that there's no room for anything else. You can't be
yeah,
on your phone when you're fishing. You got to be paying
yeah,
attention to the fishing. And when
yeah.
you're hunting, you're not interested in your phone. You're just like creeping around the woods, or it's pretty hard. I would say hunting, even more so than fishing, is the one thing that probably makes you more present than anything else outside of like catastrophe.
Hmm. Yeah, beautiful. Hmm. That's good
Catastrophe. I
stuff.
thought you were gonna say sex.
Well, sex too. I mean, sex would be up there too for sure. But I mean, catastrophe shit gets real quick. You know what I mean? Or a car crash or this or that. It's like, oh, whoa, we're here, and we're not thinking about anything else. Sex would probably be on that list too.
You're talking about presence.
Yeah.
Yeah, presence. Yeah, because it's hard
Mhm.
to be present today. You have to just
You have to choose it. I
you
mean,
really have to choose it, because
you
you can
literally have to choose
whole
it.
day
Mhm.
without being present 1 minute. I mean, and I make a living on people not being present. So don't stop listening to the show, but
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
listen all the time.
Speaking of that, I wanted to talk about your book too. I mean, I can't believe we waited this long. But I mean, I know it's probably what we've been talking about is in your book, but
Mhm.
Sacred Magic: A Witch's Guide to Earth Wisdom. Do you want to mention?
Well, the funny thing is, that book is not for sale anymore.
Well, it's going to be though, right?
Yes, yes. I shall tell the story briefly. Is that I self-published this book, right? This is like my blood, sweat, and tears, and
Yeah.
this, and it's the first of 4 books. Each are set in the elemental direction. So this is book 1 in the north, and a few short weeks after I self-published the book, I happened to be at a big witch conference and met someone from Llewellyn Worldwide, and they ended up offering me a multi-book deal. So my self-published book came down, and so now it'll be re-released in 2026 under the Llewellyn banner, but it might have a different name. So if anyone is interested in it, you can sign up for the wait list, and I will let you know when it comes out. But yeah, the book, it's wow, what an amazing process. And Darren, I know you've done a lot of writing. I don't know if you have, Graham, but publishing a book is like no other. Like, what a self-discovery journey. And good, learning discipline, learning new tools, new skills, and also new spiritual skills, because my rituals and spells are different when I'm writing.
Why is that? What do you mean?
Well, for me, there's a spirit that comes with the book. Like, the book itself becomes its own like entity.
Okay.
Book 1, the entity of book 1 was very present in my life, and so my rituals and spells all like they pivoted to being about supporting this entity that the book itself became. And it was really strange, because when now that I'm working on all the different books, because book 2 is in the pipeline, it's almost complete. The spirit of book 2 is very different, because it's the element of air. So it's the winged ones. And so all these winged beings are with me, and I'm still trying, and I'm moving between like the earth beings and these winged beings and these spirits of these books. And so my rituals have been very much dialed into these elemental energies that are coming with the books. It's been fascinating.
Oh, that is fascinating. Yeah.
I've enjoyed it very much. And, writing is it's a labor of love.
Congratulations on that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Deal.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm
I
sure
find
you've
it
heard of
very
Llewellyn, right? They're
Yeah.
yeah.
inflammatory without having to face the consequences in real time.
Say that again.
I said I find writing a good place to be a little bit inflammatory without having to face the consequences in real time.
Yes.
Can we just circle back a little bit to the what Shelley and we were talking about, because I feel like we can address that a little bit better, not better but more. What do we say to the people that are demonizing witches and the non-Christian mysticism? Like, how do we respond to that, or how do you respond to that? Or how should we?
Well, the truth is that I don't respond to that. I don't typically engage in conversations where people want to bicker about, the ultimate source of where we come from and how we live our lives and what sovereignty is. Because to me, I believe sovereignty means I can be over here and practicing what I believe, and so can you. And I can hold that space and respect that for you. So I don't, and people that have a hard time wanting to discuss witchcraft, or want to demonize witches, I talk to many of them. When they approach it as, tell me more about what your practice is, how do you identify that? And I might ask a religious person, like, tell me how God works for you, tell me. And usually we end up going down the rabbit hole of, tell me what happened to Mary Magdalene in the Bible, because if they can cut her out and they can cut all the women out of the Bible, then don't you think there's a problem? And usually we end up going down usually a good conversation. With all things, everything is skewed and demonized until you really explore it for yourself.
Yeah.
The demonizing of witches, to me, means we need to be more in our power and be living examples of what's possible. And of course, I'm grateful I live in a time where I don't have to worry about my life being taken for what I practice. I am very aware that what I do on stage and what I do publicly, um, you know, a while ago, I would have been killed for doing what I do. So I don't take that for granted. And if you didn't know this, there are still 13 countries in the world, last I checked, that can prosecute a human for practicing witchcraft.
Wow.
So it's, we're not fully in the clear yet. So in terms of what do we do about it? Well, we all become the living example of all beliefs and all traditions are welcome. That if we're going to embrace sovereignty, then we're embracing sovereignty.
Exactly.
You can't have it both ways, that I'm sovereign, but you can't do what you do.
Yeah. But I mean, How have you approached or how does witchcraft approach like cancel culture? And because I feel like it's also been, especially after COVID, it seems like a lot of these sort of movements were separated and polarized. And
I mean, there's
I
so
mean,
many different factions of witches,
yeah,
right? I mean, I know witches that do collective spells against, the current United States government. I know witches that do collective spells against the witches that do the collective spells against the government. So, I
okay.
mean, there's,
That's kind of what I'm getting at. Yeah, because
yeah,
like isn't there some sort of like level of discernment about truth and about what's sort of fake out there and stuff? Like I just
but that's a human concept and not a witch concept. I mean, eh,
yeah,
I-
but
having agency over what you consume and what you believe to be true, having agency over
yeah, but
yourself.
yeah, but becoming adept at these spiritual practices to me means that you should be able to, not you personally, like just in general, be able to discern a little bit more about what we're being lied to
Oh,
about
I see what you're
in the
saying. Yeah.
world. Like
Got
when you get to this level of adeptship, it
mhm.
surprises me how many people are just like going off into this weird realm
Yeah.
of like yeah.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Okay, so I
I don't want to
didn't
get too
realize
I
that's
don't
what
want to get too political, but I
yeah.
yeah,
Well, there's I it's interesting I see even within my own communities and the groups of people that I teach, there are some people that just still won't face their shadows.
right.
Being spiritually enlightened or being a witch doesn't mean that you have mastered walking your shadows. And I think that we that's what you're talking about. There is a lot, which is why when I said before, it is really powerful to look at the stars, but it's more powerful to have both of your feet flat on the ground. That's the same thing with shadow work. You can do all the powerful spells in the world, but if you haven't addressed your shadows, are you walking around as a human that can actually see the world in the way that you're referencing? Probably not.
Yeah. Do you see the movement growing right now? Like especially the what you're talking about where this true sovereignty? Because I totally agree with you. Like, how can you
Mhm.
have a problem with what anybody's doing? If because you don't want to be judged for how you're practicing your practice. So how
Yeah.
can you be judging other people? So,
Yeah.
but I see that is it still growing? Do you think?
Definitely. And I haven't seen it grow necessarily towards people returning to religion. I still see people in throngs, leaving religion or finding a way to embrace both, right? Like how can I embrace both God and the fact that I'm a creator of my reality, which is witchcraft? How maybe they don't use the word witch, but they're how do I manifest, more peace and joy in my life and still believe in God if I don't want to buy into the doctrine of how I have to practice my belief in God. I think that continues to be explored. And I mean, there's a lot of really interesting churches or temples that are opening that I'm aware of that are not based in one particular religion or another, that they're opening the idea that people want to come in and be able to talk about the fact that this Christ consciousness or this ability to connect with universal source exists without having to fit in a box. I think we're going to continue to see more and more of that develop. Now, the path of witches specifically, I'm not sure. It's still pretty it's edgy.
Do you think we is there stuff that you want to talk about with your courses and your website? Is there anything we left out with your book? Anything like that we should
I
talk
actually really just enjoy talking to both of you. So if anybody wants more, they can, go to my website and check it out. I have lots of things coming. The fall change of the season is a powerful time. I have a lot of different things coming up where we start as the earth is doing its slow descent into the darkness, at least in our part of the earth. It's slow descent into darkness as we get closer and closer to fall, where the veil starts to thin. I mean, this is my season. So I have lots going on, and it's moontempleschool.com. So people can check it out. But I mean, I really have just enjoyed having this conversation, Graham and Darren. It's great. And I love it, Darren. You like to poke. It's interesting. It's good.
That's my job here.
I see that. It's
Do
good.
you have any other questions, Darren, at all? Or
Where can people find you? I mean, you mentioned the one website. Do you
The
have any
website.
social media stuff like that? We put it all in the
Yeah.
show notes, but most people don't ever check the show notes. So
Yeah, definitely go to TikTok and search Athena in my blood _ in between each word, and you might get a distressing content menu pop up because I talk about witchcraft on my TikTok page. And you can search my first name pretty much on every platform and you'll find me because there's only one Tahverlee in the world. And so it's Tahverlee. And you just type in that's my first name, you'll find me. Even though there's probably 1,000 fake profiles on every platform, you'll
Yeah.
find me real.
I'm
You'll
sure I've
find me.
seen you before. I'm sure I've seen you before.
Yeah, I do.
A few years ago or something, I'm sure.
Yeah, probably on TikTok. I have a really big, very active, engaged, and committed following on TikTok.
The
Indeed.
TikTokers seem crazy. I mean, we accidentally have a TikTok for a Canadian political show, and it's just blowing up. I mean, I had to get a TikTok. I had to download the app just to keep an eye on it. But it's like we get so
I
many
love the Canadian political shows on that come up on TikTok. It's been my favorite, and especially in the last couple of months. This year, let's say in 2025, I go find my Canadian peeps on TikTok quite often. So my feed isn't necessarily the feed that people see me on, right? My feed is not the same as
I
what.
still can't figure out how to work it. It just starts yelling at me as soon as I open the app, and I panic and close it. I don't like how it's not on my terms. It's like I'm like the old guy yelling at my phone.
Oh, you have to go to the For You page and turn your volume off so you go slow.
Oh, is it? Because it's like everything else, I can open it up and I can sort of engage with it on my terms. But it's like
Yes.
open up TikTok and it's like I can't even open it up in bed in the morning if the wife's still sleeping because it's like it just starts making
So the
noise.
first thing you do is turn your volume all the way off and open it up. Now, TikTok is different. Your For You page on TikTok is not your who you follow.
No,
It's all
just
new.
it just opens
It's
up.
always all new. But you do have a following tab you can scroll to if you want to see the people that you follow or what's happening in your sector. But I have a habit of keeping my volume off when I first go on TikTok because most people are using good captions now.
Yeah, it's a bit much. There's just
It
that
is a
one
bit
thing
much.
is a bit
TikTok
much.
is a bit much. This is
I
true.
haven't followed anyone, so I don't think I'll get that far.
Well, you
Unless
should
we're
go
gonna
and
go
follow
live
me.
on. We'll try going live on TikTok today because we can't ignore it any longer. It's becoming this sort of like for the Canadian stuff, it's our biggest market. So we got.
Interesting. Well, I go live on TikTok on Wednesdays at 6 Eastern.
Interesting. We're gonna try it today for the first time. We'll see how
Well,
it goes.
good. You'll do great. You should follow me and let me come in and support your Canadian politics show.
I'll see what I can find if I can figure that all out.
It's really simple. The photo and video tab at the bottom, you just keep scrolling and you'll be live. A live tab will open.
Perfect. Tahverlee, this has been great. We appreciate you taking some time out of your day to come on the show. And yeah, we encourage everyone to get the book when it comes out and check out your website and come back anytime.
Yeah, let's do this again.
Yeah, this would be great. Yeah. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thanks. It's nice meeting you.
Okay.
Nice to meet you both.
Have a good day. And that was a chat with Tahverlee, Sacred Magic, a Witch's Guide to Earth Wisdom. That was fun. What'd you think?
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, I'd love to have her back on.
Yeah, that was good. We do have to give a shout out to Timmy, Lord Timmy in the chats, who made the point to send us $50 during the show.
Oh, wow. Thanks, Timmy. And also she should do it on audiobook. Tahverlee should do audiobooks if she can. I don't know if it's too late to put that in her contract or not, but it'd be great.
Audiobooks, yeah. I mean, it's gonna be interesting because my new book just came out. It's gonna come out on audio this week, and I'm gonna actually just watch the numbers this time on audio versus print. I mean, the print still. I mean, the ebook and the print are almost exact. Not for my book, just like in general, because we have 50 or 70 ebooks and 50 or 70 paperbacks for sale, and they are every month about neck and neck, 50-50.
That's a good idea. How did Timmy send us money? We're still demonetized.
Well, he PayPal'd it. Gramerica.
Oh, thanks, Timmy.
Yeah, he sent it on PayPal. So thanks, Timmy. Thanks, Tahverlee, for coming on the show. Thanks to you guys for listening. Bigger thanks. If you're one of the supporters, head over to gramerica.ch/support today. Sign up for monthly or make a one-time donation. We count on you guys for our livelihood. So thank you. Check out gramericaoutlaw.ca for controversial content. a-list.ca for all of our Canadian stuff. That's the one you got to listen and support, or it's only going to 100 episodes. Contact@thecabin.com for trips and events, and adultbrain.ca for all the books we're talking about, audiobooks, ebooks, paperbacks, whatever you need. Ground put a link in the show notes to my new book, Unlearned. And what else am I missing? BigSkyTallow.ca. If you buy some of my wife's tallow, the show gets a cut. We make like $10 a jar. So that's another way to support the show and get some tallow. So check all that stuff out. Other than that, we love you guys. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.